Just going to go ahead and kick things off. For starters, welcome to Purdue University's Bowman Testing Lab. It's kind of we chose this because of the rain. Otherwise, we probably would have been out on I-65, and we hope to do that at some point in the future. But it's kind of convenient that we're here. This is the structural testing lab for Purdue University. It's an important part of INDOT's joint partnership with Purdue through our Joint Transportation Research Program. There's also the Center for Aging Infrastructure, which is focused on steel bridges down the road from here. And then our research program that I mentioned before is headquartered here in West Lafayette. So we have a strong partnership where we work together to solve the variety of transportation issues that we face. It started off 100 years ago when we were trying to build the first roads here in Indiana, and that research has continued and evolved today to preserving and maintaining our existing roads and bridges and finding innovative ways to do that, to have products that last longer, that provide increased safety. So those of you that drove 231 north here would have seen the rumble stripes in the middle and on the sides of the road on 231. That's an example of one of the innovations that's part of the work that we're doing here with Purdue in West Lafayette. But the reason we're here today is to talk about the closure of the I-65 northbound bridge over Wildcat Creek, which is near Lafayette between State Road 26 and State Road 25. The way this is structured today is we're going to have our Commissioner, Brandy Hendrickson, say a few words, and then as you saw his name on the media advisory, our bridge design engineer, Jeremy Hunter, will also say a few words, give the sort of timeline of what's been accomplished to date, how we got to where we are today. This is part of our commitment to continuing to keep the public informed as we go through this and work to reopen the bridge safely and as quickly as possible. So we've been putting out a lot of information over the weekend, but since this happened at Friday afternoon, we wanted to regroup and make sure that we had all the information, that we were making that available to everyone. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our Commissioner, Brandy Hendrickson, to say a few words. Thank you. Yeah, come on over.
We don't want to block the screen there.
There's room. Jeremy?
Sure.
Okay, again, my name's Brandy Hendrickson, and I'm INDOT's Commissioner. First, I just want to express an appreciation to the motoring public for their patience. Under normal circumstances, road construction is a challenge, but the full closure of a major interstate is understandably frustrating and certainly difficult to bear. So just want to put that out there first, that we do recognize this as a challenge. I had the opportunity to brief Governor Pence this morning again. He shares INDOT's view that safety is the #1 priority and supports our decision to take action before the public was put in harm's way or that the bridge sustained any long-term damage. It's very important that we took action to prevent those things from happening. That decision was based on close monitoring that showed movement of one of the bridge piers. Our initial assessment indicates that soil conditions in the area specific to this location and construction activities taking place, those are the things that cause that movement. We're currently awaiting results of geotechnical analysis to determine viable solutions, and only after those solutions are identified will we be able to give an estimated timeline for solutions or reopening. Governor Pence has asked for us to consider creative solutions and different options for getting the bridge open as quickly and as safely as possible. Meanwhile, we're continuing to monitor detour routes for congestion and adjusting signal timings as necessary to help facilitate mobility. The good news is that traffic along detour routes appears to be adjusting to the changes, and recent improvements along other state routes are helping too. I do want to call attention to the fact that we've experienced excellent response and cooperation from Indiana State Police, Federal Highway Administration, city officials in Lafayette and West Lafayette, and we are certainly grateful for technical assistance from Purdue University. We are committed to keeping the public informed of our repair plans and estimated reopening date. The public can help by sharing our tweets and also updates from INDOT's Facebook pages. Now I would like to turn it over to Jeremy Hunter, our bridge design manager, who can share some technical information.
Thanks. So to share the timeline of events of what occurred Friday, we received a phone call from the contractor who had been monitoring the bridge very closely. Noticed some unusual movements at bridge pier number 3 for the northbound bridge. At that time, we were concerned about the movements, and so we ordered traffic off of the bridge. Immediately after that event, INDOT bridge engineers met on site with the contractor as well as with several geotechnical or soils experts to evaluate the site, to discuss what might have happened, and also to discuss any potential solutions. And we proceeded from there. On Saturday morning, we scheduled a conference at the site with a specialty geotechnical consultant that had been hired by the contractor to come in and evaluate the conditions. The specialty consultant requested additional testing so that they could evaluate the site and be sure that whatever solution is proposed is the right solution and the safe solution. The testing began on Sunday. The soils engineers began getting the tests around the foundation. And that testing, as I understand it, is still ongoing. They are getting soil samples and finding out exactly what is going on around the foundation of the pier in question. We are waiting for the results of those tests, and then we are also waiting for the analysis and the recommendations by the soils experts before we make a decision about the appropriate course of action to ensure that we can safely open the bridge. We are also working with Purdue University to install some real-time monitoring for the bridge for all of the piers, so that we can ensure that we know that if there are any movements, anything of concern, that we will know immediately and be able to keep the bridge safe.
Thanks, Jeremy. So that concludes the formal part of our briefing. At this point, we wanted to open it up to questions. We'll try to be structured in the way that we do that. So who would like to go first? Kara, I saw your hand first.
So obviously the inspection reports show that there were structural issues with this bridge dating several years back. When did INDOT become aware that there were some structural issues with this bridge, and what was sort of the plan of attack? When did all that start to come to fruition?
Sure. So the construction project that we're building today was intended to address the structural issues that were identified in the inspections. The construction also brought about what we're dealing with right now. So we're working through that. This is clear of the challenges that we face with rehabilitating and maintaining existing highways and interstates. That we're working right alongside traffic that's moving at high speeds, trying to maintain that traffic on the old bridge while we build the new. So that's one of the challenges that we face. But again, those issues that were identified were translated into specific actions that were part of the contract that's underway. So installing new bearing pads, to new technology underneath the bridge deck, to redeck the bridge, to restore surface friction for traffic that's crossing, to do other work to widen the bridge to help accommodate not just today's traffic but also into the future. So that was the totality of some of the work that we had planned to not only just widen the road but also improve the bridge. Anything
Do you know
else?
how far back though that was planned? I know you guys planned projects like decade, it was like a decade in advance. Do you know how long
Sure.
ago INDOT knew about this bridge having problems?
So we began developing this project before we had funding identified. That funding came about during the 2014 legislative session based upon some general state funds that are available to us on top of the normal fuel taxes and other transportation fees that are dedicated to construction and maintenance of highways.
Could the Commissioner talk about any kind of timeline whatsoever? Obviously, people want to know how quickly this is going to reopen. Are we talking days, weeks, months? What are we looking at?
Yeah. So as we're early in the evaluation process and the analysis of the geotechnical data, we would hesitate to give any kind of timeline at this time. Really, probably will be later in the week before we really get our arms around some of the more viable solutions.
And is there so should people be ready for preparing for these detours to take some time and for this to be for the foreseeable future?
I think foreseeable future is a good estimate.
If someone was not, if the contractors were not in that area at this time, what could have happened to this bridge? You know, are we lucky that these contractors were in this area at this time to see that there was this movement happening?
So to answer that question, they were in the area because they were working on the bridge. So you know, we expect that there's a combination of factors that will be what caused the settlement in the piers. The construction is one of those factors, in addition to just the original construction of the bridge and the unique soil features that are in that area. There's underground water in this area that the contractors identified that has you know, helped create some of these issues. So we're trying to exactly understand how each of these contributed, and as a result, then from there determine what the repair plan is. So that's something we're still working through at this point. But the construction is what we were doing to help improve the bridge, but it's also what, you know, brought about the situation that we're in today.
Will it something about the land, the character of the land, changed? I mean, obviously you were building it over water. You knew there was water there when the bridge was built. Has the land or the soil changed over time? Is that what is being studied?
So there's an artesian feature underneath the creek in that area where the piers are located in the riverbank. So the contractors encountered this artesian feature, which is basically water under pressure underground. And that's what they encountered as they were widening the bridge as part of the planned construction. And so when they encountered that sort of changed the soil composition in the area, and we're trying to learn more about exactly how that all contributed.
So I'm guessing the initial survey of the land way back when didn't notice that was there.
I don't have the information about the initial survey way back when, but you know, there were. I mentioned earlier the original construction from 1968 of the bridges, and the issue there. You know, they encountered challenges when they were building this project originally, and so you know, we did some analysis before we bid the project to determine, you know, what we needed to do in terms of rehabilitating that.
Is it possible that this settling could have caused the rocker bearings to fall off the last time this bridge had to be closed? And also, are you guys looking at the southbound lanes as well? They're both over water, so. Okay,
good question. The settling, we're doing a more in-depth analysis today as a result of the settlement that was observed on Friday. And that may help us not only learn what happened on Friday, but also more about what happened on Tuesday. So I would say stay tuned. That will give us more information that then we can, you know, use to better understand all the factors that are at play. With regard to the southbound, we have not observed the same sort of issues at that location, but we are monitoring. We mentioned the real-time monitoring devices. We're planning to monitor the bridges, and just for reference, if anyone was familiar with the South Split project that occurred in Indianapolis in 2013, we had real-time monitoring on that bridge. That was the source of some of the video of trucks hitting some of the low bridges there. We partner with the folks here at Purdue to provide real-time monitoring that can give us text message alerts, that can give us, or email alerts, real-time data that we can then use to rush bridge inspectors to the scene, or to, again, just to continue to monitor.
When it comes to these detours, how about local traffic? Why can't someone who lives off 26 travels from Indianapolis and get off at that 26 exit? Why such a long part that is closed?
Sure. So I'll reference the South Split project again. Similar situation. We closed I-65 and I-70 in downtown Indianapolis for a planned construction project. We had signs and detours. It was planned in advance, and we still had a problem with trucks, particularly taking the highway as far as it would go, and then trying to navigate on the city streets. So we've been working with our partners in law enforcement and the local communities to try to identify the best routes. The current detour maximizes four-lane roads in the area, minimizes traffic signals, avoids construction. We looked at a lot of factors, and travel time being one of them. But if you want to use another route, we'd recommend looking further out. You could take I-74 to State Road 63, take that north to US 41, and then US 24 back to I-65. Or you could take I-74 all the way into Illinois to Interstate 57. That'll keep you on the interstate system if you're heading north towards Chicago. So there are some other options, but it's very difficult to filter the local from the truck traffic. When you have truck traffic going over roads that aren't designed for it, you have issues with weight, you have issues with intersections and providing the proper turn radius for those trucks that are trying to navigate. We also don't want to gridlock the city of Lafayette or West Lafayette, so we're trying to identify those routes that are the best.
Are you also going to then, you're basically saying that the local traffic detour is going to stay the way it is, there won't be anything else that will help Lafayette specifically?
With regard to traffic, we're continually monitoring. So we put in the traffic signals over the weekend to try to help deal with some of the backups that we saw on the detour. We purchased real-time monitoring, again, through our partnership with Purdue. And if we observe issues or opportunities to try to help improve traffic, not just for through, but also for local, it's a delicate balancing act. And in addition, we're also aware of those major events that are coming up. In about a week, you have move-in day for Purdue. So we're trying to manage through not only the recurring weekend and day-to-day traffic for commuters, but also those special events that are coming. So we're looking at options, and so the detour at this current time, the way it is, will stand. I wouldn't rule out the possibility that we make an adjustment based upon what we're seeing.
And a clarification question on the detour. When you are traveling on the detour on US 52 and you have to turn onto State Road 28, is 52 closed right there at 28, or if it's easier for someone to go straight on 52 who may live locally, can you do that?
Right, so that's the preferred detour for someone who is going to Lafayette, is to stay straight on State Road 52. The signs say local traffic only. Otherwise, the big arrow boards and the signs and the signals are encouraging traffic there to turn left. So that's, again, an important part of keeping the truck traffic on those state highways that are designed for that type of traffic.
What about the lights that are at that intersection? That one and also 231 and 28, I believe, are those going to stay there throughout this closure?
Yes, unless we make some type of adjustment like I mentioned before. Thank you for bringing that up, because I did want to take a moment to thank Duke Power and Indiana 811. They worked through the weekend to help us get those signals up, and those have had a pretty significant effect on improving traffic on the detour. So in addition to our own crews, our partners were able to help us out to do that over the weekend.
Any sense of how much this is all costing? Because now you're doing extra testing, you're putting new signals, you're buying stuff from Purdue.
We don't have a number yet, do we?
It has to be adding up.
That's not our primary concern at this point. I mean, obviously, with taxpayer dollars, we have that concern. That's something we're going to work to resolve. But I mean, our top priority is the safety of the public and getting the interstate open as quickly as possible. So, expenses is less of a concern than safety, than mobility, and minimizing the impacts to everybody that are involved. So, while I have to say that we're concerned about cost, on time, on budget is our big driving goal for everything that we do. We're working with the contractors to identify this in a reasonable way and in a reasonable cost.
Is there a comparable case like this in Indiana that you had to deal with, and would that help us with the timeline at all?
With the timeline, no. Every bridge is unique. Every situation is unique. This is really a unique combination of original construction, the soil conditions, and the fact that construction was in this area. But we have closed interstates before. I mentioned the south split. That was precipitated by a unplanned closure of I-65 northbound and I-70 eastbound. We closed the I-64 Sherman-Minton Bridge over the Ohio River into Louisville in 2011. So when we have concerns about the safety of a structure for the motoring public, we do not hesitate to take action and ensure safety, and then put all the resources that we have available to us to try to get it open as quickly as possible.
Who's the contractor for this, and have they been cleared of any sort of blame or wrongdoing in this?
So the contractor, we awarded the contractor in January, is Walsh Construction Company. They're widening I-65 from State Road 38 to State Road 25 here in the Lafayette area. And we're still assessing exactly what happened. So that would be part of that, is to understand what factors contributed.
So is it possible that they might have to pay for some of this?
I mean, really anything's possible at this point, but we haven't completed our analysis.
How has this changed how you're looking at all the other bridges that you monitor?
Anytime we have an incident like this, it's an opportunity for us to learn new things that we can apply to the rest of our system. Again, this is a unique combination of factors, so it may require a similar unique combination somewhere else to be able to apply what we've learned. But certainly this will be an opportunity for us to, as this all concludes, learn from it and apply it elsewhere in our system.
Will we see more of this real-time monitoring you're installing here?
The public can access, in terms of real-time monitoring, we've been using that for a variety of different factors. Monitoring temperature, when that affects the brittleness, if you will, of the steel. Monitoring vibration when a truck hits, an oversized vehicle hits the bridge, and we need to know about that. So they're modular sensors that we can connect to a cellular network for real-time notification. It's kind of like a smartphone that has a camera and a vibration sensor and all those things. It's geared towards a bridge. So that's what we've been pioneering with Purdue, and we've used it in the public, seen some of the examples of where we've been able to use this technology.
Are you expanding its use though?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I have to look into that.
Has this led to the inspection of other bridges though?
We inspect every bridge on a routine basis every 2 years. In terms of additional inspections, our focus is on this bridge and the sort of unique factors that are at play here. But again, if we learn something that help us improve our inspection techniques, there are some new inspection standards that the Federal Highway Administration's put into place these past few years that require an increased level of inspection. So we've been transitioning our county partners who inspect the local bridges to look for these specific things that the Federal Highway Administration is looking for, and we've got Federal Highway Administration here with us today. So that's something that we've placed increased focus on inspection, but also on maintenance and repairing our existing bridges by sort of diverting and shifting our resources towards rehabilitation and repair.
People are tweeting back at me as I tweet out kind of what you're saying, and one of the perceptions that's out there is that the fixing of this bridge was delayed because of funding. Can you address that? I know you said that 2014 you guys secured the funds in order to fix it, but how long did you know about this bridge's condition, and can you address the perception that this was a result of delays in funding?
Well, again, the construction is what brought about what we're in today. So by that, if the construction began earlier, we may have been seeing this earlier as well. So I don't know if that necessarily would have an impact. I will tell you that we are shifting, as I mentioned before, all of our resources to our traditional funding to maintaining and preserving our existing roads and bridges. That's our focus. It's been a change in perspective, and that's what the engineering tells us is absolutely necessary. When we survey the public, that's what they tell us they want. But that also means that we're working more in areas where traffic is existing on the old infrastructure while we build the new. So that's going to be something that the public's going to increasingly see, is us working on existing roads and bridges and impacting that existing traffic.
Are the northbound and the southbound bridges built the same in that area?
Every bridge is unique.
But I'm saying, why wouldn't these issues not happen on the southbound bridge, is what I'm trying to understand.
Somebody wanted to address that? Yeah.
I'm Ann Rurick, I'm the Director of Bridges. The soil conditions may be slightly different at the southbound, where they may not have hit the artesian condition, so which would not potentially cause the settlement. The structures are, I think they're twin structures, so they're identical structures. They're just, the soils can change very quickly in a short distance. So that would be why you may not see the problem. And we are closely monitoring the southbound structure to ensure that it's not moving at all.
How many spans are there, and then what kind of bridge is this? Is this standard? Is this bridge used all across the state?
It's a very standard design. It's a 5-span continuous steel beam.
And when it was reconstructed in, what, 1988, what work was done then?
Oh, gosh. I'm not sure, Jeremy, do you know?
I believe it was overlay, bridge deck overlay at that time.
It was a bridge deck overlay.
I think the question that I have is, I mean, the piers were noticed rotating, and Will, you've referenced that maybe the initial construction combined with other factors were part of this. What was run into in the original construction? Was there a soil problem then? Did they run into this artesian water source?
We're still going through the records to try to determine what happened during the initial construction.
And which pier is it?
It's Pier 3.
Did you point it out, Jeremy?
So, yeah. So it's kind of in the middle of the channel?
It's on the kind of the edge of the channel.
Jeremy, is this bridge, is this picture looking north or south? I assume it's looking north.
North.
Jeremy, which one was it? Which pier?
It's the pier on the south side of the channel.
So it's the riverbank pier. It's not actually in the water, but it's on the riverbank, on the south side of Wildcat Creek.
At the risk of asking a question with a really obvious answer, are you worried about that, about the bridge collapsing, or are you worried about the middle pier collapsing? What's the fear that you have?
We're concerned with the settlement of the pier and the stability of it. We want to stabilize the pier. If it continues to settle, it'll have different forces on the bridge and how we would be able to support it. So there is long-term stability is something that we are closely monitoring and researching.
Yeah, and I don't know if we want to speculate exactly what would happen. I mean, we have not, have we observed any settlement since we closed the bridge?
I've not been informed of any settlement since we took traffic off the bridge.
I mean, my guess, if you're closing it, you're worried it could collapse, or that beam would fall or something.
I think we're worried more that you would get more of a significant dip in the bridge. Not that it would collapse, but that it would, cause the bridge not to be rideable.
Yeah, we want to avoid long-term damage to the bridge, which gives us the option to reopen it. This bridge is not fracture critical. It has redundancy built in, the deck itself. So that's different than some of our larger bridges, which pass over major waterways.
Is it possible that all the rain caused some of this problem?
That is something that we're looking into to see if it was a contributing factor.
Did you learn anything from the temporary fix that didn't seem to work? Is there anything you can take forward from that to future bridge issues to say, well, clearly we've learned that this doesn't work in this scenario?
I wouldn't say that we learned that it didn't work. I think we would apply any lessons learned to all our future projects.
Well, you had to reclose the bridge.
We did, but I wouldn't say that the fix was the inappropriate fix. That the construction issues may have contributed to what caused the second closure. That, what was going on, timeline would have contributed to settlement.
So are you saying that those 3 days, whatever Walsh did between Tuesday or Wednesday and Friday might have been the big contributing factor to reclosing the bridge?
The timeline of all the construction operations could be a contributing factor. Jeremy?
Yeah, sure. What I would say about that is that we had the issue with the bearings falling out on Tuesday. When we the time we closed the bridge on Friday, there had been substantial settlement, and we anticipate that's because if these artesian conditions were encountered, it drains water from underneath that layer under the bridge, and so that it's a constant process, and so it would just continue to settle. And so that's what we are speculating at this time. But
what is substantial settlement, like feet, inches?
Inches, yes.
5 inches? How many inches?
on this?
I don't know if we're entirely certain on that. I mean,
So we were told, I believe 9 inches is the number that Walsh had measured on Friday when they were out on site.
Like from the day they started or from when they reopened it?
when they reopened it.
I believe when they reopened it, yes.
What sorts of work was going on in those 3 days?
They were working on an adjacent substructure, so Pier 2, that you can see on this side of the river. They were working there, building, tying up, reinforcing. It's not substantial work. There was some, as I understand it, some dewatering of the coffer dam in between the 2 piers that was taking place. So removing water out of that coffer dam, that's most of the work that I'm aware of.
And it was about 2 days.
You say the bridges are the new thing you want that the state's concentrating on. How many bridges are there in this rated condition? 4 or less, I think was the number I saw. And if you were to put all the state's money into those, how many years are we talking about to fix all those?
Let's see. So bridges age. They're not constant. They don't age quickly, but they do age. Currently, we have, of our 5,600 bridges that INDOT maintains, about 6.4% have one or more elements that are in poor condition. I mentioned we're shifting all of our traditional resources to maintaining pavement and bridges. Both are important. That means about $274 million each year for bridge repair and maintenance. It's time for our staff meeting. So that means that over 10 years, at that level of investment, we do expect the condition of bridges to decline by double. We expect to have about 12% in poor condition. So that's part of the conversation that INDOT and our local partners are having with the legislature about what is the appropriate level of funding for transportation across the state, and what the public expects in terms of bridge and pavement condition. And so that's that's a serious discussion that I think this is bringing to light.
Is this, when you say that you're talking with the lawmakers, are you talking about, is this a state question, or is it a federal question, or is it a big combination?
We've been the most effective at addressing these issues at the state level. Federal funding has stayed constant over the past several years due to a number of short-term extensions. Right now, the state is investing more in roads and bridges than we're taking in with federal fuel, with fuel taxes and with other dedicated fees. We're studying long-term ways to find additional funding for transportation in a way that makes sense, that has the people who are using these facilities helping to pay for their upkeep and maintenance.
Have you guys considered any temporary solutions such as a crossover lane or something that could reopen that section of the interstate, at least one lane?
Really good question. Thanks for asking. So right now, southbound traffic is reduced to 11-foot lanes. Normally it's 12. If we were to cross southbound traffic over, reduce traffic to 1 lane in each direction, there's not really room for a typical barrier that you would put in between. So that means we would need to reduce I-65 to 35 miles an hour and put them into a very narrow space for trucks and some of those other large vehicles that go through. Based upon just the nighttime closures that we've had and some of the periodic daytime lane closures, that's going to significantly impact traffic in both directions. So that is not the ideal solution. We're looking at if there are other potential solutions, but we've already considered that one and determined it's probably not going to help southbound traffic, and it would probably be similar delays for northbound traffic.
As this pier is settling, in one of the old reports it said it was rotating. Can you tell me, is it just settling? Is it rotating one way or another?
When we talk about rotating, it's rotating kind of on a vertical axis. It's tilting. It's probably the best,
So one.
Right. So it's not actually rotating in place. It's rotating. It's tilting, basically.
So vertically, it's leaning.
Right.
Down.
Right. One side of the
end of it is leaning down.
One side of the pier is settling more than the other.
And so then then how does that, okay, so the rocker bearings were initially, it seemed like that was the problem because that's what fell out, and then it went to this pier. So how do all these components go together? Are we finding any?
Basic. You want to give a basic explanation of soil to?
Sure. Yeah. So with and as Will has mentioned, there's very unique soils conditions on this site. So the foundation sits on a very stiff layer of soil. That stiff layer of soil is on top of what we believe to be these loose sands, these artesian conditions where there's flowing water down there. The existing substructure is on what we call spread footings, where it's just a footing sitting on top of that stiff layer of soil. And then working your way up from there, then we have what we call the pier stem extending up, and then the bearings, the rocker bearings, sit on top of that pier stem. The rockers they have curved surfaces on both sides that allows them to move back and forth, rock essentially, which is how the bridge is allowed to relieve any forces that would be caused by expansion and contraction due to temperature. So the rocker bearings are designed to allow the bridge to move back and forth.
I was confused. I was thinking the rocker bearings took the cushion of the impact of traffic moving, but does it help it with the longitudinal length expansion and how?
It's actually more for the longitudinal. Yes, they're steel. They're solid steel pedestals, so they don't really have any compressive nature to them. They're very stiff, but they do allow the bridge to move longitudinally due to those curved surfaces and to expand and contract.
As this thing goes this way, is that why those rocker bearings fell out? Do you believe you know?
I would speculate that's possible. Yeah, and the pile driving operation began on Monday night, and so on Tuesday there probably would have been very little settlement. I would speculate at that point, but it apparently might have been enough to allow those rockers to fall out of position.
Is it reasonable to believe that over time some amount of settlement is just expected, just not 9 inches in 2 or 3 days?
Right. That's so we actually have very stringent requirements in our specifications in terms of the subsurface preparation. So anytime we would use this type of foundation, we would require the contractor to prepare the subsurface very adequately so that we would not anticipate settlement, or if we did, we would construct it in a way that we eliminated the settlement before we opened the bridge to traffic. So this is just kind of a very unique circumstance.
So you're hoping for zero settlement when you build a bridge?
Absolutely. By the time it's open to traffic, yes.
So is it really the soil, or is it more of this kind of moving gravel underneath? What kind of soil is it?
I'm not a geotechnical engineer, but we're speculating at this time that it's kind of a combination of the two. That is, I think Will alluded to it, that these artesian features, it's a water feature under this very dense, very firm layer of material. It's under high pressure. Actually, it's like drilling a well. You have this water that's pressurized underneath this layer, and so this sits down in a deep ravine. You can see in the pictures. And so the groundwater adjacent to the site is probably very high, and so that actually pressurizes that water underneath. And so if there's an opportunity for it to escape, then that's where the water pressure comes from, and what one potential thing that can lead to settlement.
We're all going to get education in structural engineering here. All right, well, I'm starting to hear the questions trail off. As I mentioned, since we do not have a action plan for addressing the settlement for reopening the bridge at this time, our plan is to come back and continue to provide updates. So we want to keep the public informed at every step of the way as we know new information. We've been providing regular updates on all the different mediums available to us, and we do thank you for helping to keep the public informed on all this. So I think at this point we'll conclude things. So thank you.
All the questions I've asked, or been asked in the last 3 days, it was nice to